you may want to raise your hand. If whilst we wait for the questions, let's look at what we projected last week. The assignment I gave. It wasn't an assignment that I wanted to grade, but I wanted to look at it. What do you think was the main premise, and what do you think was the supporting, the main conclusion and the supporting conclusion of our passage? So you can look at it on your gadget very quickly, and then we will discuss it. Does anyone want to try their answer? I don't want us to spend too much time on it. So if you just want to try your answer, please raise your hand. Good. So I see Josephine's hand. Josephine, go ahead. Josephine Blankson.
Okay. From the passage, I think the very first sentence, the university ought to raise the retirement age from 65 to 75. I think that's the main conclusion of the argument.
Good. That's correct. So you are correct. The other ones will be the supporting one. Good
Yes,
job.
please.
Good. So that the one that ended it, I mean, we know what we are talking about. I just want to give you a straightforward answer so that you can be at peace if you tried your hands on it. The part of the argument that ended it is the sub conclusion. Why do we say that? Because that one would now be one of the reasons why the main conclusion which began it. The main conclusion is the one that started the passage. You are able to support that main conclusion even with the sub conclusion. That was the rest then are premises. Okay, I want us to quickly go to something else that you will find useful as an empirical scientist. Your discipline is an empirical science oriented discipline. You study patterns, you observe, and what have you. And so this discussion will be useful to you because yours is a 2-credit-hour course. I don't want us to overburden you. So I'm being selective in the content so that it doesn't become too much because 3 credits is not 2 credit. That's 1. 2, you are doing it as a requirement that augments your actual discipline. So we have to be minded not to saddle you with too much unnecessarily. Okay. Yet there are certain key important things that you find useful because of what you are doing. So we are trying to bridge the gap for the two. And that's why I'm being selective in the teams. You will always be guided by the course outline that was shared for you earlier. So what have we done in the course since its inception 5 weeks ago? So 1, we have looked at language, how language is used in the discipline that we find ourselves in. The course is critical thinking in the sciences, so in the medical sciences. Yours is in the medical sciences. So we tailor make our content to fit your focus. We have looked at language, so statements, we contrasted it with other types of sentences, and then we went into the types of statements in the bid to know when you are communicating factually, you are defining, or you are passing a judgment in the way you are stating. That was unit 1. So that we know that sometimes what we say as a statement, the claim of information we are giving, we are conveying information, but we may be doing so factually, or we may be doing so as a definition, or we may be doing so by prescribing value judgments. Unit 3. That was unit 1. Unit 2 then focused on one of the types of declaratives, which is what definitions. And we committed a lot of time to understanding the types of definitions, the parts of a definition, the 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 way we diagnose definitions to tell whether there are problems with it, too narrow, too broad, secular, vague. We saw what the aspects are. A word's definition could be connoting something, and it could also be denoting. Through that, we also found out that sometimes, because of the nature of the terms we are dealing with, a definition may be open textured. In other words, the concept may be open textured or maybe a well-defined concept, a closed concept, which will therefore not lend itself to ideal definitions. We saw that. So the open texture terms are not well defined, so they don't have real definitions. All of that also went on in Unit 2. Then we came to Unit 3, which is still on the language, okay, where we saw vices in the use of language, linguistic vices, errors in how language is used. There we saw ambiguity, we saw equivocation, and we also saw vagueness. We know what they are. We can identify the root cause of vagueness. You can be vague. And I said, being vague can cost the life of someone if you don't clarify what you meant on your reporting or on the folder when you left. If you are ambiguous in what you communicated to the surgical, the patient that came for surgery, if your prescription is vague, if the therapy you have set up for someone is equivocal, you can kill, my sisters and brothers. Okay. So the unit 3 focused on ambiguity, equivocation, vagueness. We looked at the times when being vague can be chic and classy and useful because you want to speak something but in a shrouded manner, in a hidden way, purposefully so that you can still hit the nail on the head and yet be decorous. So you can say a word to the wise is enough. And that captures where you can say he kicked the bucket or he turned his face towards the wall. And that's symbolic language. You could advise psychologically, you can go to a therapy with a couple and you can use a proverbial expression to capture what you want to say, even as a health deliverer or a physician. Okay, so we went through all that. Then we saw, then we saw uh, types of discourses. We had already seen that sometimes when there are seeming disagreement, the disagreement may border on verb, language, verbal dispute, or it may be about substantive disagreement. And we said substance means either a value judgment is underlying the disagreement, or it is a disagreement that borders on different opinions about the fact. It can be between two physicians. It can be between two, health outlets, you know, research institutes about, say, COVID-19 or the swine flu and its effects in Africa or Ghana or stuff like that. And their contention may just be a verbal one that can easily be resolved by stipulating meaning. So World Health Organization may be saying one thing, and then the Ghana Health Service may be saying another. It might look like there's a disagreement. If it was merely a verbal dispute, it can be corrected easily. How? By stipulating. That's unit 3. I'm trying to do a mop-up to bring us to where we are. But sometimes the disagreement may be substantive. It is not just the way we are speaking that is different, but that what we are saying is the same. That's verbal dispute. We're actually saying the same thing, they're saying it differently. And so it seems as if there is inconsistency. That is why it can be corrected or can be resolved by stipulative definition. The other one, which is a substantive disagreement, we may never be able to resolve it. We said all that, okay, in unit 3. We attempt to bring a resolution to a substantive disagreement by presenting argument in the hope that we will convince the other person with our premises so that he or she can give up his view and join ours. It can be you as a physician, health giver, presenting reasons why your patient should agree with you on something or disagree. Maybe the lady wants to give birth to 10 children, so she can be awarded the Bedu in her hometown, the 10th child award. It's a traditional thing in certain places in Africa, Maybe she has that as a target. But you are a health person, and you can tell that her fallopian tubes and her uterus and what have you are not strong enough to do another 3. She wants to hit 10 and she's on her 7th. And the 7th will be the 6th, CS she's had with complications. So at that place, you have to convince the person with argument because she doesn't see it your way. And it's not something you can stipulate. I'm ordering. Let us agree, buying by force that you must. No, you cannot do that. You don't cut off her tubes without her permission. So you may be faced with presenting evidence to convince the other sister. That's what arguments are. It's not exchange of words or contentions or disputing necessarily. Okay. So that is why last week when we're mopping up, we engage types of discourses to show you the one that we call argument. Premises leading to what? A conclusion. Not narrations, not instructions, not rhetorical polemics or polemical rhetorics like we discussed. They are all passages as well. They are discourses, but the one that is of interest to the critical mind is what? Argument, which has two parts. Premises being the reasons you are offering, and conclusion being what you actually want to say, put together into a passage is an argument. And I used that 5 minutes or so to do a quick mop-up from start all the way to where we are now. I want to take any questions if you have them. Then if not, we go straight to the normative versus the empirical senses of the word law. What are we going to study? We're going to look at two main categorizations. So two main categories of the word law. When you hear the word law, which you deal with a lot. Law of this, law of that, law of this. It is implied in what you are applying. Whatever you are doing there is based on a certain principle. The sister will deliver in the 9th month when she takes seed. That's the gynecologist speaking. Based on the law that when the pregnant ladies have a term, a period of 9 months to deliver. That is supposedly the regular. What is regular? What is the routine? What is the uniform pattern? Let's start. But is it always the case? And is it always a certainty? If you want to read, please raise your hand. I'll let you read shortly. Is it the case that what you know about the past will necessarily be so for the future? How should we treat that kind of law, understanding of the word law versus the mathematical law versus the one that you would tell the nurse? Please keep your hand up if you want to read. You tell the nurse that at 6 o'clock, give the patient 3 tablespoons full of what trisilicate, or give them 125 milligrams of this. This one is specific. It is an instruction you are giving based on a certain regulation that we have put there. We'll look at different connotations of the word law under 2 broad categories. Okay, so that's what we are going to do today to help you know how to treat the empirical laws that we arrived at through observation, and whether they are predictions or certainties, or if they are predictions, how then should we engage them? I'll take, I see some good hands up, very good. So let's start with Hala. Afterwards, Daniel will read, and then Namumu. Very good. Namumu, we haven't read before, I think. So this will be your first time. I'm pleased about that. Go ahead, Hala.
Okay. Session overview. Think of an example where someone is criticizing on moral grounds the legitimacy or justness of a civil statute or a law. Imagine a situation where there seems to be a conflict between something that is an accepted practice on legal grounds but is regarded as unacceptable on moral grounds. These examples and situations illustrate that there must be more than one sense we attribute to the notion of law.
Good.
To avoid to
Please go on.
avoid being to avoid being fooled by switching connotations without indication, this session introduces the critical thinker to the different senses of law.
Very good. I think when we did connotations, thank you, madam. When we did connotations under Unit 2, we saw how people were equivocal, or people can be equivocal on the word free, for example, the word free this, free that. And we said that there are several ways of understanding free. Free SHS in Ghana, for example, free senior high school is free and yet not free. And what I've just said is using two different connotations of the word free. Free if we mean that the SHS folks will not pay for it. Those who are going to senior high school will not pay for that one. It's free for them. But it is not free for the nation. The nation will pay with the hospital or the roads, the money meant for roads or hospitals is what will be engineered into the free SHS. So it is free SHS for the student or the family that should have paid for fees, but it is not a free facility. So it is free, yet it is not free. You see that different connotations of the word free at play. When we're discussing that under connotations to help you see how people can be an equivocal, I introduced another word that people, or oftentimes, uh, people play people play equivocation on, or they are often equivocal about. That is the word law. And we saw that law can be a social, you can understand the word law in the social sense of it. That's how we do things in Ghana, or we can say it's a cultural norm, or we can be thinking of the same word law as a civil statute, or it could also be a, a criminal code, or it could be a mathematical law, and so on. We are going to see them here. Now, just on this slide, I want to prompt quickly that sometimes something may be permissible, and you are the physician, so you want to listen, may be permissible by the state in question, and yet morally reprehensible by the people in the state. Because the state may be, let's use an example. Look at apartheid. Apartheid was a legal thing when it was instituted in Southern Africa. Legal. Okay, and yet it was morally unacceptable. So when you think of the word law in the civil sense of it, you went into the civilian, the statutory constitution of the people, it was allowed to practice apartheid. It wasn't against the laws. And yet when you think of it as a moral law, you would have seen that that is wrong. The same with women cannot vote then, or blacks couldn't vote in the then America. You couldn't vote. They couldn't share the same church building. They couldn't, even children couldn't play on the same field because of the skin color. This was America, Human Rights America, some years back that Martin Luther King and others fought against. Okay, I'm trying to say that so you can have something that is in the statutes of the nation, legal, yet morally frowned upon. Look at Adolf Hitler's Germany then. Would make it legal. It was in their legal code to exterminate, if you like, Jews. Anti-Semitism was legal. So if you found a Jew, you were supposed to give them away for just being Jew. That's all. Not that they committed a crime. The law permitted it. Which law is that? The statutory law then. Okay. But moral law was against it. I'm showing you that these are instances where people may be contending legally, and perhaps you may be rejecting or accepting it on moral grounds or on cultural grounds or on religious grounds. We'll get there shortly. So uh, 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 I don't eat something because it is against a law that binds me. You are a physician. You cannot be appealing to the law that grounds your work only and saying that, well, I did what I have to do to save him. The person tells you, I don't eat that. Don't put it in my medicine. You see that? So you want to be conscious of the different connotations of the word law and which one is at play. And the sister says that in my culture, in my tradition, the firstborn child must have the 10th child to be able to inherit and keep the chieftaincy in our family line. Don't rubbish it. You are interested in her welfare. That's fine. So we want to see how we can take care of that health condition in the name of having 10 children. But you have to have an orientation that is conscious of different senses of the word law and how they bind people and how they influence how people act. You need that richness in your delivery of your service as what? A health giver. You don't rubbish that and just take your paracetamol or your amphetamine or whatever it is and then just administer in the name of you are making sure that the person is well. Someone may not like blood transfusion because of their faith. It's a difficult situation. The person needs it from from a scientific study. You see, he or she needs it before the surgery because of how much blood he or she has lost. And you've done the CPR over and over again. Now I'm talking to the cardiac. You know that this is the immediate thing to do, but because you are conscious of this, if you are not conscious of what we are going to engage, different ways in which people agree, you will not be even be interested in the patient permission thing. You just think that all you are there to do is to deliver. But the person may tell you, let me die rather than give me someone else's blood. But if you put someone else's blood into my system, you have killed me already. I don't exist any longer. See the faith? Hmm. And so we want to engage those senses of the word law. More importantly, to also see our method, our here referring to you and I, empirical studies. All the things that we claim we know in our discipline, medicine, science, are based on observations. I don't want to go ahead of myself, so let's read. I'm going to show you that. It is what we have observed in the past that we are building our future discussions on. What if there is a change? What if what we knew about the past doesn't truly represent what will happen in the future? What if? Is there a possibility? If so, then we want to be careful how we project the future from what we know of the past. And so our method, that's the other side of it, first being conscious of different connotations of the word law and how it binds your client. You also want to be very, very alert about how your disciplines, laws are arrived at. How do you arrive at those laws? And why would you apply them the way you do when it may have so and so weaknesses? Could it be that our scientific enterprises are just an informed guess? Yes, if it's an informed guess, then present it as such and allow the world to reveal itself to you as you engage further in research. Okay, so those are the two ways we want to engage the slides here. I really am intrigued about this one and the unit 7, which we will do later. The one I've shared on the course site on your platform for you a moment ago is for God willing next week. It's a bit technical, so I'm giving it to you ahead of time. You can go to it. I've also shared, I think, the textbook soft version. It's very big, just in case you want to find something as a reference to add up to what you have there. They are there. You find the units, you go through it, and then so that you don't have to move all around looking for a text. Right? That's a scanned version of the soft book. I think we can sacrifice that. Very good. So we want to read now. Thank you, my lady. I think it was Dania that read. So we can go to no, it was Hala. So let's go to
Madam,
that I
I read.
mentioned. Yes, it was Hala that read. Yes, thank you, Hala. So let's go to
Okay.
Dania now, and then now Momo can take over from Dania. Dania, go ahead. Let me project. I haven't projected. Good. So we just prompted that there are different tenses of the word. Go ahead with this one.
Please, it didn't appear on my screen yet.
Oh, I just pulled it up. Sorry. So who can see the review? Factual statement versus value judgment. We wait a little bit to see if
Okay.
Daniel, it has come now. Go ahead.
Yes, please. Factual statements.
Factual statements are expressions that describe the way the world is. What this means is that they give a report of the way the world is as we experience them with our senses. We call them empirical because they are expressions derived from experience or observations, and they are verifiable.
Good.
Value judgments,
Please go on. Yeah.
yes, please. Value judgments, on the other hand, are expressions that prescribe or evaluate the way the world or things or someone should or ought to be. We call them normative because they state standards or norms to prescribe or evaluate an action or behavior or something.
Good job. Well done. So this is a review. This is like a recall, a revision. We want to quickly bring to mind what we saw in Unit 1, the first lecture, when we're trying to understand the three types of declaratives or the three types of statements: factual statements, value judgment, and definition. They are all conveying information, yes. Information that can be true or false, yes. So all three of them are described as declaratives. They have a truth value, no problem. But how we determine their truth or falsity is what differentiates the factual statement from the value judgment, and that also from the definition. Now we are recalling what factual statements were. When I make a statement that I call factual, can be factually true or factually false. But why is it a factual? It depends on observation to establish truth or falsity. I see the world as it is out there, and then I report that. So I am either seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, or smelling to establish what is there. So factual statement describe what is there, how what I experience the world to be. It's observation based. It is raining. That is factually verifiable. If I said that and you stepped out of your lecture hall there and you came out and it was actually raining, then what I said is factually true. But if you come and it is not raining, really the sun is shining, you say, oh, it is factually false. What makes it factual? It is an objective description of the world as we experience it there. See that? But if I had said it is a beautiful day, that is not a factual description of the world out there. No, it is what I make of the world out there. See that? It is what I think the world out there should be. So if some would think that the sun is beautiful, so when the sun comes out, that is beautiful. For those who may be so used to the sun and want a little cold weather, they wouldn't think of the bright sun as beautiful. They think it's a new sun. It's too hot. A cloudy weather would rather be beautiful for them because they'll have a cool atmosphere to rest. Now, my point is, so a beautiful day, if I say today is a beautiful day, that is what I prescribe to be the case. For beautiful is not a description of what is there. It is a prescription of what I make of what is there. Now, those are the revisions we want to bring to mind from Unit 1. Why? Because we want to show you, please look on my screen, that there is a distinction between factual statements and value judgments. Now, Momo, please read this for me. As now Momo reads, we'll ask Esther to be on standby, then Annette. Go ahead. Now, Momo.
It's like the distinction between factual statements and value judgment therefore helps us to understand general claims of two kinds.
I'm coming.
Community
Now, Momo, you are doing fine. I think you are having feedback. Are you using two gadgets, or someone else might be by your side? Because we are having the feedback from you back in there. Could you check that? I'll call you again. Okay, but I've made a note of your participation on my file. Okay, let's take Esther. Esther, go ahead. Please read the same thing. And
Okay,
Annette to be on standby. Yeah.
normative and the empirical. The distinction
The distinction between factual statements and value judgments therefore helps us to understand general claims of two kinds. normative principles, which indicates how things must be or how they should be, versus empirical generalizations, report how things are in fact.
Okay, I think that there was a little mishap there. I wasn't sure of who was reading, but it's fine. It has been read fine. Let us interrogate that. Everyone on my screen now. So when we hear law, everyone listen, law, we may be speaking about two main categorization groupings, two main groupings of the word law. First, we may be referencing empirical generalization. That just means factually observed patterns. Everyone, please look on the screen. I want to help you see something. So we may be referencing the first sense of the word law, the one we call the empirical law, or natural law, or scientific law. Science means observation based. I may be talking about that one, empirical generalization, or I may be talking about a normative principle prescribing how things should be. So normative laws prescribe how things must be done or how things should be done. Mathematical laws, for example, fall under normative laws. It tells you how you should add 2 and 3. When you have 2 and you add 3, it must be 5. Must. It's not negotiable. Civil laws are such, so we'll go slowly. Okay, let me go back to this slide that initiated a discussion. Look, so there are 2 broad categories of what? Law. The word law, regulation. First, you may be talking about the category called the empirical law or empirical generalization. That simply means when you say it is the law and it is the empirical sense of the word law you refer to, that might mean that you are talking about what has been observed in nature over and over and over again, so much so that we expect that that is how tomorrow too will be. Please disconnect your video. I intentionally take it off, okay? Because these things are sometimes put on YouTube. So my lady, Josephine, also please deactivate your video, okay? Press the video tab so that we don't see you. Then we can only hear ourselves. Just in case you make a movement, then it is not captured. I'm talking to Josephine Owusu. Thank you, my lady. All right. Let's continue. Normally, I deactivate all before we start, but I thought we're fine now, so you don't have to be told. I was just helping you. Okay, so I've just disabled camera for everyone. You wouldn't be able to allow your cameras. Let's go on. Please look on my screen now. I was explaining this. Yeah. So I said, if it is the empirical category of law that we are referring to, then it means that we arrived at that law, supposed law, after observing the same instances over and over and over again. So we project that then it will be so for tomorrow. We solve a particular matter, for example, okay? So we saw that we heated iron, that iron, strip on the table there, and it expanded when heated. We also heated the copper. It expanded when heated. We heated what? Tin. I'm just listing specific iron. It also expanded when heated. So iron, copper, tin, zinc, brass, they all are metal, these particular ones. And they expanded when they were heated. So we conclude, everyone keep looking. The regular patterns make us conclude that then all metals will expand when heated. That is the method of science. We saw that this particular lady, so I'm going to pick my ladies on the screen for my example. Annette got pregnant. She took seed. 9 months time, she delivered. Then Hania also took seed. 9 months time, she delivered. Ajua to the same thing. 9 months time, she Efua, the same thing. So we project and say that from what we have observed all these years, empirically, factually, from experience, on the screen, our past experiences, bullet number 3, tell us that when ladies take seed, the child lasts for 9 months and the child comes out as a baby. So then every pregnant woman will then deliver or give birth in 9 months' time. That's the method that led to the law or the regularity or the uniformity. Look at the word regulation, the uniform pattern, the regularity pattern. That is what led to that law. So all metals expand when heated. Look on my screen, please, everyone. All planets orbit the sun in elliptical. They go around the sun in elliptical orbit. How did we know that? We observed patterns of specific, particular uh, uh, planets and saw that they all went round the sun in elliptical orbit and came to this conclusion. Look at example 5. All fish live in water. How did we know that? We took some fish out. There's an elaboration here, so you can look at it. You notice that when you took the fish out of the water, it will stop surviving. You notice that when you put a particular metal near heat, when you heat a particular metal, it expanded when heated. When you heated the other one, it expanded. So based on that observation, you conclude that all metals expand when heated, but you are never sure. There we go. I've started doing critical thinking with you now. So listen, you are never sure whether what you know about metals yesterday, which made you draw this conclusion, is also true for metals that you may discover in future. You don't know. That one you are never absolutely certain of it. So the possibility of a counter evidence is real. Now let's bring it to your setting as physicians. You have seen that whenever patients came into your ward or your institution with symptoms X, Y, and Z, a certain consequence follows. And you have practiced for maybe 30 years. So you have a rich experience. See the word is experience. This is it. On my screen now, projected. Very rich experience of what has been observed in the past, which makes you then project and tell the person that I have seen the same symptoms and I suspect that such cancerous cells would not lead you beyond 3 days. You didn't come too early. When we see this stage of the cancer cell, at most it's 1 month you will die. What is making the person say that's not a pleasant example, but it happens? What is making the person the observation from the past? So there is a probability, there we go, that what we know of such past experiences would be true for the future also, for this present case and for the future. The meteorologist is able to tell you that it is going to rain so and so because he or she has studied patterns. It's patterns, that's all. Observed factually. So empirical laws are this. And now Madam is ready to read for us, cement everything that I've said from here onwards. Okay. So you know why the empirical generalization. You're going to read here. Thank you, Momo, and then Esther. I think it was Esther that read. Esther, have you read already, please? If
I was
not, then
reading and then
okay.
Momo.
Then Momo came in. That's fine. So then Esther read this one. Natural law. Everyone listen, just to cement what I've said. Then we move on. Esther read. And then do come back.
Natural laws also called scientific laws, refer to the statement that express laws about nature, living things, rivers, celestial bodies, etc. They are defined as statements that aim to describe the irre- irregularities or uh, um, uniformities in the patterns of events or features of things we observe around us. They are
Good.
they are formed. Okay, should I continue?
Yes, please do.
Okay, they are formed based on our past experiences. For instance, we observe that any point in time when a fish is taken out of water for a maximum of 5 minutes, it dies. It dies. So we conclude that all fishes survive in water as a statement that expresses an attribute or a property that applies to all fish anywhere, anywhere, anytime.
Good job. That's all. So we are able to make that, we here referring to scientific researchers like yourself, like mine, science, empirically grounded studies. We observe and make our deductions from the observation. Take note, natural laws, scientific laws. They are described as empirical. In fact, social science is included here. That's why it is a social science. How people will vote in this December in Ghana, or how people will vote in US, whether it is Republican or their counterpart, the Democrats, is based on patterns. Ghana, we know Ketu South and Bantama North. When you hear Ketu South, you know that it is obviously going a certain line, the voting. So the patterns is what is influencing the posters, the one who is making a poster suggestion. Sometimes they project, and people are not minded to remember that it's a factual stuff. It is not a normative law. It's an empirical thing. So the projection could fail, could fail. Brothers and sisters in the Lord, that's all that I'm trying to tell you. It could fail. They could tell you Trump is president. What's the name? Hillary uh, Clinton is president, the lady. And before they know it has changed. All the research pointed to a certain person and it failed. Before you start alluding or making claims about tea-free, what have you, check you are dealing with an empirical study. It can fail. The meteorologist could say it will rain tomorrow because humidity is this and the northeastern wind has done this and that, and it will swear him or her like something. Why? Because it is a projection based on how the world was observed regularly in the past. The lady's baby may decide not to come in the 9th month. Hello? Yeah, you can't arrest the baby for breaking the law of biology. I need you to take note of all that. Why? Because of the nature of the law in question that you are expecting to apply all the time. A certain metal may be discovered that will not expand when heated. That sickle cell anemic person may not have to die at age 18 as was projected then. Why? Because the patterns we saw are our observations of the world as we experienced it. If the experience changes, the the expectation will also change. So for us to say all metals expand when heated on our screen now, all fish survive only in water, no human being has feathers and stuff like that, it's only as a result of how we have seen the world. Every human being breathes oxygen. That's example 6 on your screen. Well, brothers and sisters in the Lord, perhaps it's just a matter of time we may discover a counterfactual. We may discover. Discover means it is covered. You uncovered it. So research may show us something else about nature that we didn't know earlier, which will then affect what we think. of that our law that we had earlier. If you understand that very well, then you and I must act that way. So when I am telling my patient, for example, that the nature of your fibroid as such that it will be very difficult to deliver a child, tell the person that because currently we researchers, doctors, the hospital, whatever, we don't have the ability to help you. Not that you cannot give it. You don't say that. You cannot. It's a metaphysical language. It's not an empirical scientist language. This cannot happen. It can't be this. It can't be that. Can't. How much of the world do you know? See that. You are only speaking based on how you have observed things. Normally, if the person comes and has blood level of this, maybe 4 or 3, it's not like the person can even stand. He will die immediately. Or, stuff like that. Or he needs blood immediately. So, based on what we know in the past, we will be guided. And that is very important. That's what science does. We are guided by what we have observed constantly to help us make, everyone look on my screen, I'm going to show you something, to help us make what? Predictions. Informed predictions. So I'm able to tell if I see the fingernails and maybe the toenails of the patient, I'm able to tell with a certain degree of probability that this might be cancer, or this might be anemia, or this might be, you see that? It's experience that is given. The grandma can just look inside the palm of the person, the house girl, and tell mommy that, look, your house girl, she's pregnant this month. This week, call her and ask her she's pregnant. Maybe mommy might not even know. And grandma doesn't have the pregnancy lab in her eyes or in her arm. It's experience. You see that? Experience. Experience means contact with particular instances of it for a long time. So science is very useful, but science must understand its limits. The scientific enterprise, therefore, thrives on what? Search and research. You search, you find out something, you research, you do it again. Why do you research if you have already found the absolute certainty? Then there is nothing to go and search for again. The reason why the scientists keep searching, we keep searching and searching until we have chloroquine to deal with malaria. Then we say, no, let's go further. Then we say, then we attach with samodiacum. Then before long, they say, no, we don't even need that. We need this, we need that. How do you do that? You keep searching. The day you have a certain sense of finality, certitude, I'm done. You cannot do this. This cannot be this. This you have stopped doing science. You have started doing dogma, church, or mosque. You see that the word of God is the one you can't contravene. It is established, forever settled in heaven. But when we are talking science, the scientist is handicapped. Why? Because you are trying to uncover a world that has been created to find out what the patterns are to help you be able to navigate a world you didn't create. That is science, empirical study. So whether it's natural science, as in physics, what have you, or social science, studying human behavior, or human science, history, what have you, these are just observation based, and therefore you should be minded in how you project your generalization onto the world out there. It could fail. One economics example, and then Annette can read. The economist says whenever prices of goods and services are increased, quantity demanded falls. In other words, people buy less when you increase prices. That's the law. You see why they quickly, I don't know if you have a economics background. The caveat is ceteris paribus. Other factors held constant. You have to hold all other factors constant. Why? If you don't do that, the law has already failed. Because I won't buy a quarter tablet paracetamol just because the price has increased. It won't do the job. It's a necessary good for my health. I need 2-3 times daily, no matter how much the price goes up. So you see, the law says when you increase things so high, people buy less. I may stop buying if it is a luxury good, like perfume or something, I may stop buying that expensive one and look for the popular one here and manage. But if it is a necessary good, like my health, like fuel for my car, which will bring me to family health and back, then I say I'm going to buy a teaspoon of fuel. How will I move that? You see that? So we just showed you that the law, empirical law for so for cons, for example, this one is a prediction, it's a probability. It's based on how we have seen things, but it can fail. Why can it fail? There's the possibility of a counterfactual. Something else can happen that will not make the law effective. Sister Annette, please read for me what we have projected. We are still on empirical law heavily. Then we'll move later. Go ahead.
Okay, so I should read the examples of natural laws, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Examples. Every planet moves around the sun in an elliptical orbit. All metals expand when heated. Any physical object that goes up must come down. All green plants use sunlight for photosynthesis. All fish live in water. Every human being breathes oxygen. Natural law
Very good.
statements.
Mhm.
Okay.
Please go
Natural
on.
law statements. Okay. Natural law statements have no exceptions and are therefore called law-like. But there is no way to be absolutely certain that such statements would always be true. So they are called law-like because maybe someday counter evidence will make them false.
Very good. And that someday has already happened for most of them. There are metals that will not expand, no matter how you heat them. So they use them for, I'm sure you know them, for some parts of the aeroplanes, some parts of cars, some earring types, because the world was created. The scientist is only discovering a created world. What we discovered then showed that several instances of metals that were discovered all did not expand. Excuse me, all of them expanded when we heated them. So we had good reason, see my language, good reason to believe in the likelihood. The thing is a language matter, how I'm speaking, the probability, the high chance that what? That other metals will discover in the future will also not expand, will also expand when heated. We thought of it that way. That is why we project them and say, based on how many metals we have discovered that expanded when heated, we can conclude safely that it is highly probable that all metals will expand when heated. You see that? In the hope that we will find a counter evidence. Counter evidence means an opposite to the fact. We won't find something that is opposed to how we know things. So all women deliver in 9 months, law of biology. But as we speak, we know it has been negated. It has been falsified. Why? Because some babies can pretend 7 months they have landed by themselves. Others won't come back. They like the sofa bed in the tummy there. They stay 10 months, they are still there. Until someone says, Charlie, you have to bring them out. You see that. Will you arrest that baby that she has broken a law? No. A metal won't expand when heated. Then you put handcuffs on the metal's hand for disobeying a law. No, you will rather go and change your law to accommodate the deviating evidence. I want you to understand because of the nature of the law. Suppose you know that every sickle cell anemic patient, whatever, had a certain lifespan or had a certain crisis situation or what have you that they go through. Suppose that was the law. Then you find a sickle cell patient. He doesn't have any of those symptoms, yet his blood shows this thing. Will you now tell that sickle cell patient that we have arrested you for breaking the law, which says that if you are a sickle cell patient? No, science has rather revolutionized. When we see that, we are happy. We are looking for people. Can you come and see our theory has been made false? Here is an instance of a fish that can live outside of water for 3 years. It is not dead. It is sitting on the table. The fish hasn't died. We will be so interested that that fish has negated what we thought we knew about the world. Why? Because what he has done, the fish has done, is going to show us something else about the world. It's going to be a discovery. That's how proper science operates. Not one that is overly protective of their theories and won't allow a fish to survive outside of water. Even if it is surviving, they will kill it. So it will be a law. No, that's not science. So if someone today said that I have a cure for HIV, a true scientific posture will be the one that wants to say, bring it on, let us investigate and see. Because you want to believe that it is possible. Why? You didn't create the world. You are discovering. So you should be open to research. Don't say that this cannot be correct. That is dogma. That's not that's not science. So now that we have hit on so much of empirical science, empirical law, sorry, which is what grounds empirical science, natural science, scientific laws, it shows us what? That when the law is empirical in nature, it is not absolutely certain. It is presented as a generalization, only for you to think of it as like a law like. It looks like a law. But if you deviate from it, you are not arrested. So it is not doing what a law should actually do. It's just describing a regularity that we expect to happen, but which we are very conscious could fail, and they fail all the time. When that instance of a fail occurs, that is a counterfactual occurs, the law rather is changed to accommodate the counterfactual. All these are what this distinctive features of an empirical law. Good job. I want someone else to read what is there. So I'll take a share, and then whilst I share is reading, Wedam, please be on standby. Go ahead. Thank you, Annette. Go ahead, Asher, for this slide. You're muted, so you have to mute it. Right.
Natural laws are disguised predictions. They predict about future realities. The statement, all metals expand when heated, means that if you come across any metallic object and you heat it, then expect it to expand. But what if you discover a new metal and it does not expand upon heating it? Then it will make the statement, all metals expand when heated, to be false.
Good.
Scientific
Keep reading.
Scientific laws always depend upon evidence, and they are predictions. They may turn out to be false, so we call them law-like statements or hypotheses. Is that not? Since they describe regularities and uniformities in the patterns of events around us, they are empirical.
Excellent. Well read. So take note of the word hypothesis. Scientific generalization, the ones we have just called empirical generalizations, are only hypothetical. Hypothesis. A thesis is a statement that you have blown out of proportion. When you hype an event, it means you blow it up, make a lot of noise about it for it to look very big so that people can get attracted to it. A hypothesis is a hyped up thesis, a statement that you have blown out of proportion only so that it will allow for what further investigation. They are hypothetical, therefore means they are subject to further research to either confirm it or falsify it. Okay, so all the generalizations we saw empirically. See, how do we know that they are empirical? They are just a gathering of patterns. So we say every planet moves around the sun in an elliptical orbit. That is what you have observed. You are not prescribing what must be there. You are describing what is there, empirical. Okay. So all metals expand when heated. It is you are just stating an observation factually done over and over and over again. All green plants use sunlight for photosynthesis and so on and so forth. Every human being breathes in oxygen. Now, based on these observations, you have arrived at such what? Hypothesis. That's empirical generalizations that act like a law, but they don't do what laws should actually do, which is what? If the law is broken, you enforce it. That is what a law is, a regulation. Do not write on the wall. The person writes on the wall. You find the person. The traffic light shows red. The person crosses the traffic light. They are fined or arrested. Do not take that which doesn't belong to you. You go into someone's room, pick their laptop, steal it. Choboy, they catch you. You are arrested. What am I trying to show you? When a law properly captured as a law is broken, the deviation means the one deviating, the deviant is made to conform. You force the one who is deviating to fall in line. Is that what these empirical laws do? No, they can't do that because they are not actually laws in the normative sense of it, which is prescriptive. We are getting there. Okay? We say that this is how you should take the weight of people. This is how you should do the incision when you are going to do the CS. You are showing, this is your instructor at the medical school there, showing you how to do the cut. Cut it horizontally first before the vertical and expose it. That is not negotiable. You do it differently, we either fail you that you don't qualify to be a doctor here. Where is it? We will force you to conform. See that? That is not what is happening when you have an empirical law. Empirical law, when there's a deviation, like I told you, a planet that will not orbit the sun, we will change what we thought we knew about the world and come and say, not knowing is not all a planet that go around the sun. Hey, we have discovered the word a planet that is contrary to that. And then we will revise our law to fit it. We say it's not every child that comes 9 months old, they are preterm babies. What are we doing? We are revising the law so that it can accommodate the deviation that we have discovered. Why? Because this is not really a binding law. This is a descriptive law, a factually grounded law. And we have to respect that, even in our projection. When you say it will rain tomorrow, heavily, you are meteorologists, and tomorrow it doesn't rain, are you going to arrest the clouds or the sky? You put the sky under house arrest or what? It will not mind you. You can't be arrested. You will have to go and check and make sure you did all your work well. We did it well, then maybe God decided otherwise. Or that there is something else that perhaps contravened or prevented our pattern from following the norm. As soon as you get that, then it engineers the desire for what? A research and searching and researching. Good job, Ashe. So we will go now to my next compatriots. And I think we are done. We're just mopping up. So I asked Wedam to be on standby. Wedam, please read for me afterwards. Did I mention another name? If not, then Anna Chibia can be on standby. Wedam, go ahead. Read this one. I can't hear you, Wedam. Maybe you are muted. So please unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
It's better now. Go ahead.
Natural laws are disguised predictions. They predict about future realities. The statement, quote, all metals expand when heated, end quote, means that, quote, if you come across any metallic object and you heat it, then expect it to expand, end quote. But what if you discover a new metal and it does not expand upon heating? Then it will make the statement, quote, all metals expand when heated, end quote, to be false.
Oh dear. Finish it. You know that this is what Bashir read, eh?
Pardon?
Yes, your colleague read this. So
yes,
when I was listening to yes. It's fine. Read it to the end, then I'll give you your own
okay.
reading. But go ahead.
Scientific laws always depend upon evidence, and they are predictions. they may turn out to be false. So we call them law-like statements or hypotheses, since they describe regularities and uniformities in the pattern of events around us. They are empirical.
Good job. We have said all that now. So we are ready to move to civil law and statutory law. Please hold on. You read whether we read this one again. But let me find out if there are questions. So please, just in case you have a question, a pressing question, I allow it. Just unmute your microphone and ask it. I don't want the hands to go down. People want to read. So in case so far you have a pressing question, feel free. It's not a very big class. I can accommodate that. So feel free to unmute your mic and ask that question if something is bothering you. All right. So we are good. Madam, please read this now. Now we have moved, a quick introduction though. We have moved from the first categorization. When I talk about categorization, I mean the grouping of the word law. So you can group all laws into two main categories. Category. Empirical one, which is what we have spent a lot of time on so far. Telling you they are descriptive, factually grounded, they can fail, they are not certainties, they are only describing the world as we are familiar with it from experiences. And then we make projections on the grounds that how we saw yesterday would also be the same for the future. But we are very conscious as proper scientists or proper empirical students that what we know of the past may not necessarily be true of the future. And I want to drum that into your mind respectfully for your enterprise that you are engaged in over there as medical practitioners. You cannot impose your view of the world, your experience of the world onto the world. Let the world reveal itself to you. We may find out that mosquitoes wouldn't even be treated by artesunate amodiaquine or artemether lumefantrine or chloroquine. It might just be lemon in this and so and so and so. Drink it and that's all. It will kill the malaria. It might just be. We have to allow nature, the physical world out there, to reveal itself to us. Then we only do what? A reporting of that, gather that data and speak it. We don't have to impose what we expect to be seen there onto the world there. That is not science. That's dogma. Some people practice that way. I am telling you that no one can let you have this thing what's the expression they use? The declared case. Useless case. Nothing can be done about it. Really, nothing. Say, I don't have what it takes to do anything about the situation now. That's an incapacity on the part of the practitioner or scientific enterprise generally. We can't help at this stage. We're still learning, opening stuff out about the world to know whether it is possible at all to let virgins give birth. Also, it is not possible because you didn't create the world. Okay. Can you imagine? I was telling the main campus students, maybe a little bit. I told them, look, can you imagine sitting in your room? I'm sitting here and I pick my mobile phone, a rectangular gadget here in Ghana, Africa, West Africa for that matter. And I just dial numbers. Maybe I click 223344661, something like that. And someone in far away Azerbaijan, Iceland, Haiti, will pick their own four square or rectangular phone and press just a key and put it next to their ears and they can hear me. Look at the distance. No wire, no cables, nothing. Look at the distance. No, hey, what kind of magnetic force from here? Look at where I am in Africa. The distance. If you sat in the in the aeroplane from Ghana to go to US, it will take you 15 hours, 14 hours. I am sitting in Ghana here. I just pick my and say hello, and the person can hear that maybe 3-4 seconds. Can hear that in Haiti. This is witchcraft. Imagine, this is witchcraft. Telegraph is the one that even scares me sometimes when I think critically about it. Telegraph, paper. Allah is laughing. It's witchcraft. Imagine, huh? You have your own paper in your office. Then it goes to a machine and comes out. In my office in Ghana, West Africa, Accra. Then someone else is in US or Europe, Australia, far away about Aborigine society in his own office, some corner in the forest somewhere where he has his own, and he has a desktop there with the telegram, whatever. And then he will also do picture, and the paper that was in Ghana, paper solid. His system will pick it, and the writing you had on this paper will reach there. You say it's not witchcraft. This is witchcraft, the highest version of it. It's because we have been exposed to it. We call it science. I'm just showing you that so nothing is impossible. Look, you drop your pen in a pool of water. I'm sure I would have said that to you earlier. It will sink. But a boatload of human beings and cars, tables and chairs inside a ship, let's use ship Titanic, is floating on the sea. It's not sinking. You say it's not witchcraft. When a human being walks on the water, you have a problem. You say it can't happen. Why can't it happen? I don't know how it happened. It's your expression. As a true scientist, you say, I can't tell how that happened. I can't tell. It's a weakness. I don't know how it happened. I haven't discovered how it happened yet. Don't say it is not true or is stories. So if an aeroplane can lift itself up, I'm talking science, empirical, a world that is created, that you and I are just trying hard to unravel things inside, open things and try to explain it, find connections and patterns. There is no end to what the world can tell you about itself. From human beings and their relations with each other, from people's psyche and how they behave, the reason why people behave in a certain way, why people are so inclined towards going to see negativity and positivity. You must have that in your, it must be part of your rich person, your richness, before you deliver help to someone. When you sit and you're engaging people, and that man, I think that he did that, he raped my boy. And this, be careful, Madam Pediatrician. You want to solve the problem, but understand the psyche of people, how people think. From your observations of people over and over again, there is probably, see what I said, there's a likelihood that people are just inclined towards negative news more than positive. It doesn't mean that there might not be some truth there, but you have to have the ability to suspend judgment until you have good reason. You may not be absolutely certain until you have good reason. Why? Because the world keeps opening itself to us. And a good empirical scientist, especially when you're dealing with empirical law, and that's what we are doing, is the one that allows the world to show itself. You don't impose your interpretation of the world on it. Okay, so back from my commercial break, I want to give you some of the things that intrigue me. The aeroplane lifts itself, it doesn't fall down. You throw your small orange up, then force of gravity pulls orange. What is the weight of an orange? It pulls it down. A whole aeroplane takes off. Do you know why? Certain laws have been discovered that counter other laws of empirical. The law of flotation perhaps couldn't stand the other law of something. So maybe after some time, we may just have to hit our time after lecture. Those who go home, those who are non-resident, after the lecture, you just hit your time and you disappear and you reach home. Maybe it's just a matter of some years. We'll see that. No cars, no trotro, no taxi, no Uber. The Uber is in our knee. When you finish the lecture, you say, okay, see you guys. Bye. Everybody hits their time. Papa. A biological flight. We are good. Do we know? Maybe there is something God put in our system that we need time to see it. We won't be able to investigate if we conclude on what we think we have arrived at. I think that the point is wrong. So now ask my fine gentleman, think, I ask a gentleman to do the other categorization, which is what? Not the empirical law, but what the normative law. How should we understand normativity? That one is not describing how things are. It is prescribing how things must be done. So some think of it as man-made laws. Let our friends, one of them is civil law. So go ahead. Hey, did I give someone the responsibility to read? If not, then let me call
Yes,
Sandra.
please.
Okay, if you are there, then please read for me. Sandra, be on standby. Everybody will read. And that's it. You to be on standby.
Um,
Go ahead.
Civil law and statutory law.
Mm.
Civil law and statutory laws are man-made laws that represent the legal instruments that governments of states use to regulate the behavior of citizens. They prescribe how citizens ought to behave in specific circumstances. They are laws backed by force, since they come with sanctions.
Mm.
NB. They are prescriptive statements, since they express what one should do or must not do. So they are normative.
So they are normative. Okay. I don't have to overemphasize this one. A civil law is not describing the world as we experience it. No, it is prescribing the world as we should behave in it. You see that? In Ghana, like if you go to Rome, you do what the Romans do, sort of. So family health. I mean, where I pushed my babies, that my twins, some 10 years ago, the hospital said, look, we give blood transfusion automatically. It's part of our package here. We don't look at whether you have blood or not. It is automatic. So if you know that you don't do you don't do blood transfusion, then you can't deliver it. We put the blood next to you. We don't wait for an emergency before. So that is a prescription of how we carry ourselves here. You see that? That is not describing the world as we experience it. It's not an empirical matter. It is a normative law. Civilians have laws that guide them. Depending on the state in question, some states have laws that are influenced by their faith. I remember the World Cup at Qatar, the football World Cup. You see, I can speak of certain, like Israel is Jewish. Okay, so if you see those, then you can tell that where the laws are influenced by the divine, sometimes there are overlaps. But simply put, whether civil, whether divine, whether we are going to go through them, whether customary, mathematical or logical laws, these are all prescriptive. They prescribe. They tell you how you should do things. They tell you how things must be done. And therefore, when you go contrary to it, you are made to conform. So they are enforced. How? By sanctions. Sometimes our eyebrows alone can put you in your place to show you that you don't have to wear a swimming costume to the lecture hall. You are breaking a social norm. Just as we won't say in the name of holiness, you should wear your kaba, your slit, your socks, goggles, wear your hijab to go and play tennis because you are holy. See that one also, it will also be out of place socially. The context will not be helpful. So we can use our eyebrows, or we can arrest you, or if it is mathematics, we can give you wrong for not doing it according to the law. Or if you were buying at the market, mathematics applied. Like I told you the last time when I was explaining well defined. You can't say 2 yards of the Ramadan clothes that we are buying, add another two. When you finish, you say, okay, so 2 plus 2 is still 1, right? No, they will beat you at the market. You will have to pay. 2 plus 2 must be 5. So mathematical laws are also what? Normative. I just took you through all that so that when we read, we'll just finish up. So look on our screen, say red civil law, and these are instances. Tax, traffic lights, electoral rules for electoral process. You can't say, look at me very well. Do I look like a foreigner? I'm a Ghanaian. Please give me the thing. Let me go and vote. They say, oh, uncle, please, did you register? When we open the register, oh, my friend, that's my house over there. That's my house. All my children, those are my grandchildren. They are on the tree, they're playing. Everybody knows me in this area. My brother, you will not vote. Because the rules instruct on how you should vote. It's a normative law. Okay, it's not a descriptive one. So you are not permitted to exempt yourself. Very good. So some more more for you. What about the customary laws? I don't want to bore you. So, see, let me ask. I think it was Nana Sechibia. Nana Sechibia, please read for me. Sandra, be on standby.
Customary law, just like the civil laws or statutory laws, they are man-made and also have sanctions attached to them to regulate behaviors of members of a particular community, clan, or lineage. A system of authority that enforces the customary laws are chiefs, clan heads, and so on, etc. Examples: 1. Taboos like incest, not farming or fishing on a particular day. 2.
Sorry, my
The
lady. Imagine,
traditional.
just to interrupt you. Can I interrupt you a minute? Imagine
Oh, sure,
a
sure.
man comes to the hospital there, or a father comes to the hospital, and they say they are not taking that baby home. They are not coming to take the baby. Why? Because the girl and a blood relation took seed. The child is a product of incest. You are a hospital. What do you do? The baby is stuck at your hospital there because there is a contention between you as a health giver who is purely delivering health, and then the family contending over a customary law that binds them. That child comes home, and that is haram of a kind, or if you like, a how do you say it, abomination. It is bad luck, bad omen if you bring that child into their home. So the child doesn't know what do you do? It has to be managed well. Don't say this foolish a cake. You know the stupid thing that these people they are saying that in your hospital. No, they for them the thing binds them. You have to argue. Do you remember argumentation? Present reasons to help mitigate it where it is not possible because some argument may never lead to the resolution of that substantive disagreement. You may have to find the social welfare folks, or you may have to make it a legal matter so that a higher law, like the law of the land, which allows for, you know, uh, child protection and what have you, may come in. Why? Because then you are conscious that a certain normative law is at work. And so it's not something you can use your stethoscope to deal with. The same way that apartheid was a law by the state, but higher moral arguments brought it and grounded it to a halt, we hope, at least legally. We can use certain laws to embark to overcome others, even though they are all normative. I was referencing the Qatar World Cup thing. You know, I saw it in the news, and I think that I heard right. A seeming imposition. People wanted to put the Qatar said, "Look, we are playing football. We want a bid. Don't bring certain colors there. Don't come and impose, what was invoked then, the LGBTQ thing here, because we have a problem with it as a state." You see, it is a statutory thing. Even if it is inspired by a religious posturing, that thing was respected. Anyone that tried to do it there was caught like the way you would catch a pickpocket stealing from a pocket. It's just someone disobeying the law. No one could use that as a case against them. Just as any other nation may have. I was trying to show you how sometimes the divine could mix up with the cultural, or the cultural could mix up with the statutory, or the statutory could play into the moral, and so on and so forth, even though they are all, you can delineate them. Why are we discussing this? You are going to deal with people who come with these baggages. I've given you instances. She doesn't want to take blood transfusion. You thought you are just learning medicine, but you have to make a critical decision. Save a life or impose by saving a life. And the person gets up and say, "You have killed me." I tell you about the shaving issue. Hey, the sister who got up from after delivery. She was happy with the baby. She gave birth to a bouncy baby boy. She was happy. The family, I mean, the hospital said, "Hey, your baby is a boy." She's happy until she went to the washroom. The nurses cleared. Yeah, the ladies will understand all the bush around the area there. They shaved her sakura and killed all the grass cutter because the place was so bushy. You could arrest the grass cutter in that bush. She was rushed there. So when it was time, when she was off like that, they just did it quick, shaved it so the baby doesn't get infection. Apparently, that thing they shaved was her sign of authority in her cult. I'm sure if you're at home, you'll be laughing. Yes. So she loves the baby, but she says, "You have taken my authority from my hand. That is the scepter of my rule." Really? Mm. And she said, "Wait, wait, 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 at the place there. What do you do as a hospital? If she sees you are in trouble, because she says you have taken her kingdom, you have sold her kingdom to the other group. She can't inherit again. She can't lead the group as a whatever queen mother or something there. Someone, and it's not a Ghanaian thing. That's why I don't want to be direct. Someone else will take their kingdom from them. So the baby that has come is not even something she's happy about. Doc, are you serious? I'm serious. The same way with the blood transfusion. Person is pushing 3 babies out or something. I like the baby thing because of their tenderness, their innocence, and it's also almost interdisciplinary sort of. So it can be pediatrician, it can be gynecology, it can be therapy, so that many of you will benefit. Huh? They said, really? She needs 2 pints of blood. So we can do a safe surgery. I said, I don't take blood. Hey, you don't take blood, say this thing you're going to do. How do we deliver the triplets? I don't take that. What do you do? You see that it's not your medical professional. It's not a profession matter. It is critically thinking about a matter at that time. So immediately maybe the institution will have policies. When someone is rushed in, this is our policy statement, or this is how we run our institution. If it was an emergency and I brought in, we will work with our rules that we have here. So if the person comes and it's an emergency, the hospital is immune from any call for, legal, or if you like, what have you, that may come up. That will go into the critical thinking that goes into setting up the place, management, the hospital, what have you. Because you also want to save lives, but you can't cry more than the bereaved. Very good. I think that I went. So those were some of the normative laws, taboos, like incest is what brought all the elaboration there. Look at the customary marriage thing, inheritance system. Some will go to their mother's side. They say, you don't inherit with us. You have to go to your father's side. When they go to father's side, they say, no, you don't inherit with us. Our inheritance system says you should go to your mother. When you go to the mother's people, our inheritance system says you should go to your father. The person has nowhere to go to. You see that? So even though customary laws are normative, they could be what's the expression, overridden by a higher one. You just have to be conscious of which of the laws we are dealing with. Even in war situations, can you see how people are appealing to humanitarianness and saying that no, we have to allow us to give food to the people because that transcends your issues. That's a human rights thing. It's not a cultural thing. It's not a statutory thing. It's not a what's the other one, civil or criminal. No, no, no. This is humanness. So the prisoner has erred, has maybe killed someone or whatever, but they are fed by the state. It's annoying. Yes, because that is a higher law, human factor. That's why sometimes I have issues. I can understand the business part of it, but I have issues when a hospital cannot attend to an emergency situation because of the monetary thing. Sometimes I feel that economics is really hurting the humanness. You have to take care of the people. When you finish, you keep them there until someone comes to pay. But they say we are looking at the child has only 2 days to live. Oh, please to come and bring money. Sometimes, well, maybe the hospital cannot do it, but sometimes they can. They just don't want to do it. Then it can't be replaced. When people have come and they have the money, then the resource is not there. Anyway, thank you, my lady. Let's take Josephine now. Oh, I think I said Sandra. Sandra, Sandra first, then Josephine. I see the others. I think the rest is reading. So that's customary laws, more of them. That's moral law. Please read this for me, Sandra. You are finishing.
A general rule of wise living, especially such a rule or group of rules conceived as universal and unchanging and as having the sanction of God's will, of conscience, moral, of man's moral nature, natural justice, built to human reasons. Morally good, morally good law, not seen as cultural norm. Bracket, there would be no way to criticize any cultural norm as being immoral. Morally good law, same as being legal, into brackets. Then there would have been no way to challenge Abetting law on moral grounds. Moral laws are assumed to be universal, transcending one's culture, religion, constitution, or society.
I already alluded to this. Thank you, madam. I already alluded to them by showing you how a higher argument can lead to our rejection of apartheid, even though it's legal, our rejection of segregation in America, separatists kind of, these people are here in this black church, white church. The Holy Spirit cannot enter the church where the people have black color or something. What kind of, mindset would that be? All those were prevailing then in America. Okay, I like the America example because look at America now, very human rights and right, emphasizing right. But then some years back, that thing was going on. It took a lot of activism to go against that. Where or what were the appeals that the activists were making? They were making moral appeal to contravene legally accepted ways of doing things, which was seen to be what? Not right, going against the moral law. So the moral law is not necessarily the cultural norm. Otherwise, we couldn't have criticized cultural practices. We could say you can't have a culture like that. How can you say your inheritance system doesn't accept you? So someone will suffer with the daughter or the husband and wife will suffer. Then some uncle will come and show how resources should be distributed. How? What I'm doing now is an examination, if you like, of a cultural norm based on a moral, supposedly universal, transcending uh, uh, principle. I appeal to that to negate the cultural one. Okay, so look at it. It is morally wrong to steal. So all this you know already. So we want to move on. That is Martin Luther King Jr. I'm sure most of you know him. This talk about segregation in America. Then he and his group of other folks spearheaded the rejection. These are quotes from some folks that are speaking to the notion of the word law, the understanding of the word law, it being universal, it being applicable. So some names, some fine names for you to look at from different religions or religious persuasions. We put them there for you. Now, logical law. I would take my lady now. Mention that. Was it Josephine? Okay, Josie, let me take you. So Josephine Blankson, then we'll do Hania, and then we'll do. Oh, it was Josephine Owusu now, right? Josephine, go ahead.
Hello.
Josephine Owusu, rather. It's Josephine
Hello.
Owusu. Josephine Owusu, please read for me.
Please, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Josephine. I can hear you. Josephine, I can hear you. Go ahead. Oh dear. Josephine Owusu, I can hear you. Okay, let's take Hania now. Hania, go ahead. Josephine will come.
Okay. Logical laws. Logical laws are the principle or rules for thinking that are required in order statements that are accepted as further statements which by all means will necessarily also be true, since they follow from the premises that were assumed to be true from the outset. They guide us in distinguishing good reasoning from bad reasoning. They are deductive in nature, since they guarantee that if your starting point, that is, assumptions or premises, are true, then your final conclusions will also be true. Example: if all
Mhm.
A's are B's and every B is a C, then every A is a C. Another example: the law of excluded middle, that is, or you can say the principle of excluded middle, states that for any proposition, either that proposition is true or its negation is true.
Good job. Well done. Let me give you an example. I said all women like money, and I added that Hania is a woman. All women like money, and Hania is a woman. What have I told you indirectly? I want a chorus answer. Let me see if you are there.
Hania likes money.
You see what I didn't have to add that. It is in the way I reasoned. If it were true that all women like money, and it was also true that Bridget is a woman, then it must also be true that Bridget likes money. That is in the logic of it. It's a logical reason. Suppose you said, I wasn't in the room when they were counting the money. That room could have never been there before. Yet that day when I was there, when they were counting the money, they didn't even give me some. Hey, my brother, this thing you are saying, we have a problem with it. Suppose that was your testimony at the law court. We have a challenge. I wasn't in the room. However, when I was there that day, they counted the money, but they didn't give me some. Were you there or you weren't there? You are offending the principle of non-contradiction. It's a principle. Every statement is either true or not true. One of the options is always the case. So if you say I wasn't there, however, when I was there, then you are talking absurdity. We are correcting you. We are saying that that is not how you should think. That is not how you must think. You see, that is not how you must reason. So logical laws are normative in that sense of it. They seek to show you how to reason without offending logic. The same with mathematics. And I think that I can now ask Bridget to read for me. Oh, we should just spend. Please, is it better now? If it's better, then you
Yes,
can
please.
read. Okay,
Yes,
please,
please.
let's. Bridget. Go ahead, my lady, Josephine.
What are they? These are laws that regulate the way operations in mathematics ought to be done.
Good.
We have rules for mathematical practices and descriptive laws that summarize the results of mathematical practice for all time.
Mhm.
Example, laws of addition.
I don't want you to talk plenty. That one we know. So mathematics has a meaning for addition. Thank you, my lady. When we say add, you can't have your own meaning to it. This is how you should add. It's simple. 2 plus 3, don't tell me is equal to 23. No, that's not correct. 2 plus 3 means put 2 and 3 together and give us what it came to. So there's a meaning associated with what? Add in mathematics. Subtraction, division, multiplication. They all mean something. Even number is not a prime number. Why am I telling you that? So you see why mathematical laws prescribe how you should add. Take sheets of paper and put them by your side. You're going to do something very quickly for me before we go, okay? Just put them by your side. I'll ask you to send me a snapshot on WhatsApp as your answer. Yes. I normally wouldn't have told you, but because of the distance, so that people can get themselves ready, I'll ask you the questions in class, and then when we say stop work, you will just take a snapshot and put it on the WhatsApp platform for all of us to see with your name on it. Okay? Good job. So the last one is divine laws, which I've already dealt with. Look at the 10 Commandments. It prescribes how you should behave. The Sharia law, the same. Taboos that are associated with traditional religion. Even those who don't believe in any specific organized religion, they believe in karma. They believe in the world as consciousness, nature. They say Mother Nature will deal with you. So they won't do certain things because they believe nature prescribes to them that what you plant, you will reap. On that note, all these are instances of normative laws. Thank you. All those whose hands were up, I saw it. I think there were a few others as well. So another very active class, very participatory. Now I want to ask, is there any questions? So let me lower all the hands. If you have a question, I'll deal with it first. Then I can ask you my questions. Any question? Please raise your hand if you have a question. Bridget, go ahead, please. Was there a question?
Please, I wanted to read.
Oh, okay. But you read for me, finally. Or you didn't get to read, Bridget? I think you did. Because I've written down your name here. And the other hands that we have. Okay, so I'm asking some questions. Please write it down. Can everyone hear me, please? Yes, you can. It is just built on what we have discussed today. So question 1 is just a feedback I'm taking from you that I will read. 1, if I asked you to give me 3 different distinctions you can make between a normative law and an empirical one, what will it be? 3 different distinctions. Very simple, straightforward distinctions. Don't write long essay because I don't want you to struggle. So whereas a normative law is so and so, empirical law is so and so. Normative law has done this, can do this, that, etc. Give me 3 distinctions you can make between a law that we categorize as normative versus the one we categorize as empirical. Write it on your paper so that you don't struggle. If you can do it with a gadget too, no problem. I will ask you to post it on the WhatsApp platform and I'll grade it as part of class participation. Okay. Unless there's a problem. Is there any problem you are bringing to my attention? Class rep. If there is any such challenge, the person can send me a message directly. 3 distinctions between a law that is described as normative and one that is described as what? Empirical. I want to add one more. Question 2. Question 2. Question 2 is, does someone need a little bit more time to do the distinction between normative law and empirical law? Okay, question 2. Question 2. Explain why, with an example, why a normative law is not necessarily, explain why a legal, something is legal doesn't mean it is moral. I'm trying to make it very simple for you. To explain why something may be legal and not moral. Use an example to make your point. That's all. Don't use my apartheid. to explain why a law may be legal and yet not moral. Use an example to make your point. Thank you all very much. Enjoyed myself today too. I asked you to post the response before 4 o'clock. Is that a good deal? Because you have to have your life. I'm just giving you the 10 minutes to finish it. Take a snapshot and post on our platform, the WhatsApp platform I've created with you. Post it there with your name on it. Question 1 and question 2. Everybody will be a witness to whether you submitted or you didn't submit. Okay. I could also ask, no, maybe if you put it there, then someone will copy your answers, right? Okay. Then send it to me directly. You know, my number is on the platform. So find me and send it to me directly. But your document must have your name. If you write family health on it, it will make my life easier. Okay. So let's say it's Adjoa Amofa. Adjoa, you raise your hand there. I filed it. Adjoa Amofa. Then family health. Then question 1, your answers. Question 2, your answers. You take a snapshot and send it to me. That's all. It's feedback. I want to know the feedback from the class. And I'll reward it just so you earn marks and put on par. That's all. It's not anything. Some 5 marks it can do. And it was your question
Has she
because
sent
your
the
hand is up.
slides? Yes, I wanted to know if you would send the slides to us
For
for
which one?
this lecture, today's lecture and last week's lecture.
Why do you want the slides? The slides are my notes that
Oh,
I
it's
used to
just a
teach.
question. I was just
Oh, my
asking.
lady, I'm also asking. Don't worry, I'm also asking.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
No. Oh, I'm also asking. I'm interested in why people want the slides. Why? It will
Oh,
help your
for
learning.
personal reviews, yes, and studying.
I know. But I'm giving you the test.
Okay.
I don't want people to be overly dependent
Are
on
you giving?
slides to
Okay, okay, then
I
that's fine.
posted.
Thank you.
No, it's fine. It's fine. So I'll pull these ones as well and share. But just so that people are not overly dependent on notes, but they engage the content. So I'll add that after you have engaged the content. I think someone also asked me that on the platform. Then I said, play the recording. I want you to listen to the lecture first. Then I'll give the
Okay.
slides in addition. Okay. So
Okay.
let's work
Thank you
that way.
very
It is
much.
all for you. Thank you to Annette. Is there any other question? All right. So when you send the thing after 4, please let's agree that I won't be able to grade it because I don't want you to have a due advantage over your colleagues like that. So it is now 3:48 or so, maybe 3:50. You should use the 10 minutes to write your response nicely to the questions I asked. Very simple, straightforward questions. And someone was laughing. I think it was Nana CGB or someone was laughing because if the slides were there, Nankadis will just go inside it. You get
Yeah, do you
you
have
get it.
this?
But I haven't given it. I haven't given it. So people will now have to remember how the discussion went, which is all fine and good. I just want feedback, raw feedback to see the impact that we made. Then I'll reward just the effort, not so much whether I got it correct or wrong, but the effort at trying to recap what we did is what I reward. I wish you well. Have a wonderful week. All the best. Take care. Bye for now. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye, dear.